Welcome back into the Blurred Wire. I can't believe I'm like just now doing this episode because, I've obviously been watching the series for the past like 4 weeks, and I'm like, have I really not talked about Daredevil Born Again yet? So that's what we're going to do today. Let's go ahead and talk about Daredevil Born Again. Of course, the new series streamed on Disney Plus about 4 weeks ago. No, 3 weeks ago with the two-episode premiere. We're now at what I'm guessing is going to be the halfway point with 4 episodes in. So I'm guessing now is at the halfway point. So it feels like now is kind of a good time to kind of talk about the series, what it liked so far, what didn't, what we think is working, what's not working potentially. Um, and obviously, this is probably the project people have been most excited for since Deadpool and Wolverine. Like it's the only thing that really was getting people excited and moving the needle for the next story in Marvel because Daredevil and everything around it is such a beloved series. And apparently it's already getting a season 2 that's supposed to come out next year. Um, and like the Netflix storylines are so dense that sometimes it's like you almost feel like, man, I kind of got to go back and watch like all 3 seasons of Daredevil in order to see like what's actually happening here. But it's not too bad to catch on. I mean, at the beginning, you'll be very confused if you don't know the other seasons of Daredevil. But again, they're making a show for the fans, right? So let's talk about, what kind of feels like it's working and maybe what we're not really sure about right now. So I watched it, and the opening, it feels like Disney wanted so badly because Daredevil's kind of jumping forward, right? Into Daredevil season 3 left us with Wilson Fisk going back to jail. Benjamin Poindexter, Bullseye, got some kind of like experimental thing to fix the damage in his back from when Kingpin paralyzed him after they had that fight. So we're at a very so that all of that is things that would need to be unpacked in the next season of Daredevil 4. And so, it kind of feels like Disney wanted so badly to just go ahead and move beyond that, move past that, that we're now thrust into this new storyline. And so obviously major spoilers for Daredevil for Daredevil Born Again if you haven't seen it yet. Please go check it out if you haven't seen it yet. But obviously major spoilers going to be coming in here in just a little bit as I kind of explain what I mean by this. So again, if you've seen it, you know that at the beginning um basically Bullseye attacks Matt, Foggy, and Karen at the bar, Josie's bar, or something like that. And he just kills Foggy, you know? And it's, you don't want, it's hard to become a trend. Like, you don't want something to become a trend of Marvel just killing off beloved characters at the beginning of a series. But that's exactly what happened in Secret Invasion, right? Maria Hill was killed in the first episode. It's tough because like I complain a lot sometimes about Marvel not having high enough stakes, right? And then they do these things to show that there are high stakes, right? That like nobody is safe. Problem is when you go this route, right? Like where it's like first episode they just kill them. For people that don't know the show very well or are maybe just getting into it, you don't get a chance to like build up the anguish of having that person die. It's kind of feeling like you just want to skip ahead. Because like I said, I always said that Marvel is not I guess like afraid to kill off characters, but like Tony Seth's death was obviously a very big thing. And they were never afraid to kill off Asgardians. That was that was easy for them. But other characters, they didn't want them to die, so they always end up winning, or because you kind of want a like happy ending. Netflix was never concerned about the happy ending, right? So I'm kind of surprised that Disney ended up being the one to kill Foggy and not Netflix. But a lot of those same showrunners from the Daredevil series, evidently Disney has brought, so it is a little bit different in that regard. The only thing is, I feel like when you do that, you want all the pain and you want all of the high stakes that comes with it. High like hey, nobody's safe, anybody could die at any moment, but you also are skipping or don't want to do all of the work of character development, right? Because it's like and Foggy's character is pretty well developed in the Daredevil series, but we don't get like, a heart-wrenching death at the end of the series. Like if Maria Hill died at the end of Secret Invasion, that would have been a lot more powerful. If Foggy died at the end of Daredevil Born Again, that would have been a lot more powerful. Right now, it just kind of feels like you're using these characters because people like them and actors, so you can show them in your trailers, right? But you don't actually want to pay the actors to be in every episode because you got to pay them for episode. So it looks like you're just killing them to kind of clean up the storyline, to kind of clean up who's alive and who's dead. And it just feels like, Karen Page has now moved to San Francisco. So, you can say that, oh, yeah, 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 they're coming back. But it kind of feels like, well, no, you didn't really plan for them to come back. You just planned to kind of wrap up that story and move on. Um, and and that's one way to do it. But again, the way the Netflix series did with storylines, they didn't just wrap them up in a scene or wrap them up in a couple of events. They would, what would happen, and the way Marvel really used to do it is things would kind of play out and affect other things and continue to intertwine instead of skipping us like, 1 year later after, um, Wilson Bethel's Bullseye goes to jail for killing all those people in that bar, which is kind of what Netflix just did right here, or what Disney just did right here. So let me know your thoughts on that, how you feel about that. That scene left me, it didn't leave me feeling like I'm back in Daredevil, right? Like, I know this is what they were kind of going for, but it kind of left me as like we want to get some high stakes, we want to wrap up a storyline, and we're going to do it all in like a minute and a half. And so it was a little confusing. But anyway, so moving on. Now I say the second and third episodes of Daredevil, I thoroughly enjoyed because I am I don't know if there's a word for it, but I'm a legal head, you could say, like legal drama head. I love law shows and TV shows like The Lincoln Lawyer, Bull, Suits LA. I'm starting to get into it. I love Law and Order. It's one of my favorite TV shows of all time. If you have any kind of courtroom drama or movie, count me in. I am there. I don't know why, but I like them so much. I love watching lawyers craft their arguments. Juror Number Two is one of my favorite movies this year. I love it all. Right. So, um, so seeing Daredevil, Matt Murdock, basically, Matt Murdock. So seeing Matt Murdock defend Hector Ayala for a crime he didn't commit was cool. Watching him navigate the legal system, displaying his arguments, talking to the judge, all those things that were going on, um, I liked it and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I think the thing that, like, I've been watching Punisher to try to catch up because I know, and I haven't finished all of season Punisher. And what I've realized is the way that like Marvel is focusing very heavily on linear storytelling, and the Netflix series didn't really do that. So a lot of times they'd be playing two storylines along at once. So you would, like in the Netflix series, I feel like the Hector Ayala trial would have played out over like 5 episodes. Same way the Punisher trial played out so long. But while that's happening, other things are happening at the same time, and we're seeing that interspersed between. So you kind of keep going back and forth. This one, it's like we just focus so much on the Hector Ayala trial. We're just in it, in it, in it, and it's just the only thing that we have going on, right? It's the only narrative that we're paying attention to, and then we just kind of have like Kingpin as mayor, but it's not really having the same kind of like, okay, what else is going on kind of feel to it. It's like, okay, let's handle one thing, then we can go on to the next. And Netflix would handle multiple things at once and throw them at you, and you'd have to watch them all as they coalesced and came together. So but like I said, I still do it, and it is very fitting that Hector Ayala ended up playing White Tiger, and it's very tragic. No, sorry, it's very fitting that Hector Ayala was the actor that played Hector Ayala. I'm so sorry, I can't think of his name right now, but the actor that played him actually passed away in 2023, which is extremely sad. He just died of cancer, and he was a very, healthy looking guy. That's why season two was dedicated to him. Episode two was dedicated to him. But yeah, no, he was a fantastic actor. I loved him from The Rookie, primarily is where I know him from, but I also know him from All American. So he played Coach. He played a coach in All American, and he played a detective in The Rookie. So great actor. I know he's missed by a lot of people, and I wasn't sure about how they treated him in the storyline because I was like, man, um, that's so again, major spoiler for the end of Daredevil Born Again season episode 3. But Hector Ayala gets shot in the head by someone who appears to be Punisher. And so when that happens, I was like, wow, they just introduced his character and then killed him right away. But I also realized it's kind of like a backdoor, because White Tiger is a mantle that's been held by many characters. And actually, in the comics, that's how Hector Ayala died. He got shot in the head after he was exonerated in a trial. And I'm one of those comic fans that'll be like, I don't really know about that storyline. And then you show me it's from the comics, and I'm like, yes, amen, good job. And I know it's not really fair, but as soon as, I was like, I don't really know about like having Hector Ayala in there for only like 2 episodes and then he dies. And then I was reading his origin. And I was like, oh, that's exactly what happens in the comics. Okay, that is acceptable. I like that. So again, yeah, probably not the best way to do it, but um, yeah, it was like, okay, that's it. That'll work. So yeah, in the comics his character gets shot and is framed for a crime he didn't do and is on trial for it. So but his amulet gets passed down beyond that. And so like, it would have been nice to see like an exploration of like the amulet a little bit, where he got it from. In the comics it's from Kun Lun, that ties into Iron Fist. Maybe they probably felt like they didn't have enough time to do that, I guess. And it feels like they're really milking the Vincent D'Onofrio as Wilson Fisk really, really hard. And I mean, again, it was a celebrated casting, celebrated character. Um, but it's like, okay, make sure you give me a story though. Like, don't just have him in it because people like give me a story. Like they put him in Hawkeye because people loved him, and it's like, okay, well, you got to give me a story though. So it's the same thing here. It would kind of be like, give me a story that we can really go off of and um, really use to just give me a good story, right? Like, just give me a good story. Give me a reason why he's there all the time. And again, he's the mayor of New York, but like a little bit deeper than that. And again, I don't really like what Echo did with him. And like, he's now trying to be a good guy because she healed his heart of the hate. But as the mayor and all of the criminal activities that they did, like I don't really know if I like that direction. So we'll see where that ends up going with Born Again. But yeah, I don't really know if I liked that direction either, and that definitely didn't come from the comics. So her shooting him in the face, though, it does come from the comics. So that's kind of the wrap up there. And again, I thought that storyline was done because the actor unexpectedly passed away, and they hadn't wrapped filming by December of 2023 because he passed away in December of 2023. This is not coming out till March of 2025. But no, as it turns out, he just simply it was just a tragedy. And it looks like this is the storyline they were going with because, again, it mirrors the comics pretty well. So now we're getting into the fourth episode, and this is where Daredevil, tracks down the bullet and everything and realizes that it was a Punisher copy. And then he and John Bernthal's Punisher get into a huge argument. Um, and this is where they finally call Benjamin Bullseye. You know, Punisher's like, and it feels like I think it's like good to have Punisher be the one to do it, to be like, and Punisher's sitting there, he got life, and he's like, yeah, what did Foggy get? Bullseye's out there breathing the same air that you are, because it kind of feels like that was like Bullseye over there, like that wasn't his official name. It felt like Frank was using it like satirically, like in an angry way. So I thought that was really nice. Like I said, season 4 didn't have much to it, and then by the end we see Matt Murdock becoming Daredevil again. And to me, that's the only part. Like again, I like seeing Matt like get back in the courtroom and stuff like that. To me, that's the only part of this storyline that I'm not really sure that I love. I mean, I'm like we're at episode 4 of Daredevil Born Again, and in episode 5, he's gonna become Daredevil again. And I guess it's called Born Again, so like, you kind of got to ramp up to him. Like there's a reason why he's doing it again. And obviously, Daredevil always has distinctly Catholic themes. The Devil of Hell's Kitchen, things like that has always been weaved into his storyline. And the comic run is called Born Again. I just don't know if I buy the idea that Matt Murdock would stop being Daredevil. So at the beginning, they tried to show him like basically because he dropped Bullseye from the roof, he kind of considered that like I just tried to kill him, and he ended up surviving and getting life. And he's like, I crossed the line, and so I decided not to be Daredevil again. And it kind of feels like, I don't know, it kind of feels like either, I mean, the Bullseye is a great villain, so they probably wanted to keep him alive so they could bring him back. Um, and he was only in the show for a tiny little bit. And I'd love for them to bring him, but I'd love for them to bring him back like in a like here it just kind of feels like okay, we need to use him, but let's just like put him on ice, right? Like to me, if you're gonna put him in this series, like have him have some kind of substantial effect on the plot. And the plot is, I guess, basically is like his actions that killed Foggy, right? Is what made Daredevil decide to not be Daredevil anymore. Made Matt Murdock decide to give up the Daredevil costume. And I mean, I guess it's like you got to keep watching the series to see if I really believe that, but we did see a fight between it. It opened up with Daredevil versus Bullseye. I just think when you have a show that has 3 seasons, you don't really have to go into a whole side storyline of why someone hung it up and is putting it back on. Like that was one of the things that I didn't really like about The Dark Knight Rises, right? Because it was like Batman. I mean, I guess he was the Dark Knight at the end of The Dark Knight, so like he couldn't continue being Batman because they were hunting him because they thought he killed Harvey Dent. But when he decided to start Batmaning again, and the movie took like 20-30 minutes to get there. It's like retelling an origin story, right? And it's like when you've already done an origin story, like part of why The Dark Knight was so good is because Batman was fleshed out so well in Batman Begins. So The Dark Knight could just start right to it, right on the action, right with everything that was happening. Here it feels like we kind of got to like retell an origin story with Daredevil instead of starting right in it. And again, the Hector Ayala storyline was good, but it kind of feels like had we just started right into it, we could have got a little bit more out of the season instead of having to like gingerly kind of step our way into it. And so I think it's gonna get it better. Like that storyline in and of itself is the only thing I don't know about fully. The fourth episode to me was just kind of okay. I mean, the confrontation with Punisher. I gotta finish watching Punisher to know exactly like where he is and why this went that way. But the second and third episode had me feeling like, okay, we're back. Love the courtroom drama, love all of that, and I wanted to see more of it. Like stretch the Hector Ayala trial out for a minute, um, and having White Tiger there um, was also extremely helpful. I mean, having White Tiger. So his niece in the comics ends up taking over the White Tiger mantle. So that's why she comes in and says, "I want to see my Dio. I want to see what they did to him." And in the comics, she ends up becoming White Tiger, and that's probably why. And that's why Daredevil has the costume. And he's probably going to end up giving it to her because it's going to be passed down to her. So that's why how that storyline kind of like wraps up and ties together. But yeah, let me know your thoughts about Daredevil Born Again if you've seen it already. Your thoughts on the midway point, I guess that we're at. Whenever they kept saying it was Latvia Heritage Day in the fourth episode for Kingpin, I kept thinking like, oh, Latverian. Okay, so we got some and I was like, oh wait. That's Latverian, not Latvian. So there I was kind of excited because I was like, oh, there's like a Doctor Doom connection that we got here, but there isn't one. So let me know what you guys think. And yeah, let me know what you guys think. Did you like the first episodes? Are you excited for the direction? And until next time on the Blurred Wire.